Welcome to the Be All You Can Be MSC, the podcast dedicated to empowering Army Medical Service Corps officers and professionals like you. I'm your host, Stephanie Moore. And on today's episode of the Be All You Can Be MSC podcast, we welcome Major Micah Sturgeon, a career manager from U.S. Army Human Resources Command. Micah, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you. Thank you for allowing me and giving me this opportunity to be here today.
No, thank you for joining us. And so for all our audience out there, HRC, known as the U.S. Army Human Resources Command, is located in Fort Knox, Kentucky. Its main objectives are to improve the career management of the regular Army and the U.S. Army Reserve soldiers. It's a command that's supervised under the Office of the Deputy Chief of Staff for Personnel and is under the Department of the Army. In addition, the command supports the Director of the United States Army National Guard and the Chief of the Army Reserve. So, Micah, if you could share a little bit about your experience as a Medical Service Corps officer, and also, what is it like being a career manager?
Well, yeah, so I guess I'll start from the beginning. So I joined the Army in 2000, and I joined as a 75 Bravo, which is now known as a 42 Alpha. And, from there, I did 5 years, and then I had got out of the military and then came back in 2008. So I commissioned and joined as a medical service officer. From there, went through all different levels of different units. From the PL level, XO, and working through staff jobs. One staff job being a 70 Foxtrot position. But it was during my time when I was downrange. I had some experience in contracting, and that really geared me up towards wanting to go that route. So I applied for the APIP program, Acquisition Procurement Internship Program through LTHET. Was accepted and went through that program. And by virtue of that program, I became a 70 kilo and worked about 5 years in the contracting community. And from there, I transitioned and I became career manager. But being a career manager was always a goal of mine. So as a lieutenant, I've always been interested in what a career manager does, and just kind of understanding, what goes inside, what happens inside the black box. And so when the opportunity came available in the market, I took advantage of it, and I was fortunate enough to get selected. So being here, I will say, is by far, honestly, the best job I've had. Is sincerely the job that one job I can say I've had where you can see the fruits of your labor. But as a career manager, I guess let me just frame the AMED career management objectives, which is guided by the policies established by the Deputy Chief of Staff G1. So in there, we want to ensure that we maximize career opportunities and increase their efforts to achieve, the highest levels of career satisfaction and morale within our officers. In doing so, we ensure that the education and training requirements and opportunities are going to be available and exist for that personal and professional growth. And as our officers grow, we maximize that potential and we capitalize that, through avenues such as ATAP, Army Talent Alignment Process, where we match these individuals based on their desires and their preferences into these positions where we're able to maximize the manpower requirements for the Army. So as a career manager, we use these objectives and through numerous different platforms, working with the different branches within the Health Service Division, and help through the ATAP process, the market process, promotion boards, command selection boards, LTHET programs, PME for your military education. And then lastly, we're a sounding board for the officer for any career advice that they may have.
I appreciate you giving that rundown. It's refreshing to hear that someone, had a goal in mind and that you were like, I wanted to be a career manager one day, and you became one without even being a 70 Foxtrot, which is our human resources area of concentration. So it's refreshing to hear that you're not pigeonholed based off of your area of concentration, and there are opportunities to serve in that capacity.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have AOCs from all avenues of aim at HRC right
That's
now.
great to hear, just because I think it also gives a nice diverse representation for us officers out there serving. So, you brought up a couple of things, the education piece and a lot of the tools to career management, but also the sounding board. And I think that's really important to highlight because oftentimes folks don't, it's out of sight, out of mind, and you don't see your career manager unless you get an email from them necessarily. But you are a resource to the Medical Service Corps in the sense that, if I emailed you today and said I needed to talk to you for career advice, that is a part of your role as being a sounding board to me.
Absolutely. Yep. So anytime any officer reaches out to us, we make ourselves available. We are not geared up to, we don't attend a lot of meetings by virtue because we have to make ourselves available for the officer. Everything we do is in support of that officer and their families.
So I know a lot of people have hesitation, like, oh, if I call the career manager and I'm struggling with something, whether it's professional or something personal that's bleeding over into their professional career, that they're going to be judged or they're going to be put on the naughty list up there. I think that's a rumor often that has been perpetuated, at least when I was more junior. But just to verify, Micah, there is no naughty list up there, correct?
It's funny you say that because I used to think the same thing and I heard the same things. But I can tell you, as someone sitting in the seat, there is no naughty list. No one is marked, for any reasons. You can think of it as seeing a lawyer or a doctor. Everything is professional and secret between yourself and that career manager.
Well, thank you for demystifying it for us all. So we're going to roll into a very I would say emotional topic at times, and that is, you brought it up, the Army Talent Alignment Process, known as ATAP, which is our decentralized, regulated, market-style hiring system that aligns officers and jobs based off of their preferences. It came about in 2019. And it does allow for both the officers and the units to have a active participation to selecting their job preferences. So if you could provide us more of an overview of how ATAP, that process works, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. So in ATAP, there's two cycles each year, right? So we have our O1 cycle, which is our winter cycle, that goes from October through March. And then our summer cycle that goes through April through September. So in each cycle, there's three phases. And what I like to tell officers is that you have to Cobra Kai the market. Okay, so just follow me with this, okay? So there's three phases in the ATAP cycle. Okay, so before we enter the dojo, we can't just go in and start doing leg sweeps and roundhouses, right? We got to get warmed up. Okay, so in doing so, we're shaping and setting the conditions for the market. Right, so this is that time where there's a lot of engagement with the consultants. Consultants are pivotal inside of the MEDCOM authorization allocations. We're looking at the strategic billet market is happening at this time. So really trying to initiate, what the platform is going to look like for the market, and then we're trying to look at, has there been any changes in the TONEs or TDAs? since the last cycle. And then this is time we're looking at our officers and evaluating and seeing, okay, who is in the cycle to move? And then, from there, has there anyone been identified, whether they're retiring or uh, or medical reasons, or anything that could put them offset out of the cycle. Now, and then we send a notification out to the officers, and that's important too, because a lot of times we're not tracking what is going on the ground at this time, and so we'll get a lot of feedback from there, and that helps us out moving forward with the market. And so the units are working on their MERS, their Mission Essential Requirements list. Here, identifying what positions they need for the market, and identifying their 1-to-N list to prioritize what positions they want to be advertised into that market. And then prior to the market, once we receive those requirements that come in, we look at the DRL. I'll be honest, I don't know what the DRL stands for. I think it's Distribution Requirements List, I believe. But we're looking at that, and then we're basing off the requirements off of Army Component Manning Guidance and AMED Manning Guidance. And then we got to look at that, and we got to look at our number of movers we have in the cycle. And that's how we're going to have to evaluate what positions are critical for advertisement, for filling for this cycle coming up.
Okay. And just so you know, you are absolutely spot on. The DRL is the distribution requirements list. So I just wanted to let you know you know your craft. One of the things too with the aim, so the marketplace, you talked about the different phases and about folks retiring and everything. But when we talk about those phases, you highlighted about, retirements going on and making sure that, everything's aligned. But when the marketplace is open and active and the units are selecting officers and the officers are selecting units, sometimes things change throughout the marketplace because of that. So a unit might select someone as their top candidate, and then that candidate go away during the marketplace because maybe they put in a retirement packet.
Yeah. So before I get to that, let me just talk about once the market opens. So getting back to the Cobra Kai concept here. So the Cobra Kai way is first strike first, strike hard, no mercy. And so that is I always tell officers this. That's why I call it the Cobra Kai market. Go in there, and you got to go in first, and then go in hard, right? So what I mean by hard is research, those 10 to 20 units that you desire, that you want to be with, and then start contacting these units because you want to get in there early. And I can tell you that I've seen a vast difference from those that go in early till they start mid to late market on who gets selected, right? As far as how they were preferenced in the market. So getting in early is key. And then, obviously no mercy, just meaning get in there, feel secure that you've gone through the market process, and that you can walk out knowing that you got at least, anywhere from your first to 20th selection. But as you say, so yes, during the market, there's always going to be changes. During the middle of the market time frame, we'll have a market review on our end. And so that's what we look at. We look at, okay, has there been any changes with the number of officers? Because at the end of the day, we want to try to balance the books. We want to try to balance the number of positions per that AOC with the number of officers that are out there. And it's always going to be some fluctuation because, sometimes life happens. Officer, they may have to extend in that position for a while, or they have decided to retire, and that's fine. But we want to make sure we're looking at all those changes and that we're balancing our books from there.
Okay. So when we're talking about this Cobra Kai process, so I like it, the go in first and go in hard. That's it's something I feel like we need to make that a hashtag, because I personally did that on day one. I felt like overwhelming myself with how many emails I sent out that day, but I feel like I reaped the benefits of doing that. So as the market progresses and then that mid-market happens and there's changes, do you have any advice for officers on the emotions that come up during the AIM marketplace? And I share that I ask that because me personally, although I understood the algorithm, I understood the process, I knew what I needed to do. I still had a moment of panic where I even called you at one point and was like, Micah, I'm looking at 97 jobs. I don't know am I doing this right? Like, I don't know that I should rank order all 97. And I know Human Resources Command puts out, we need to rank order all the jobs, but I was overwhelmed by the marketplace. So what is your advice to the officers feeling the different emotions that come up?
Yeah, so going in, first of all, know what you want. That's going to be the start, and then by knowing what you want, you can go in there and then look at the positions that are being advertised, and at least pick those that fit that mold you're trying to get after, or something relatively close. Um, yes, preference everything. Okay, now if you're a major and um, you're going to see captain billets in there. You're going to see lieutenant colonel and colonel billets in there. Now, if it's a captain commander position or a company executive officer position, okay, no need to preference those. But preference the other captain positions. And I get this all the time. I'll talk to officers and I'll say, well, that's a captain's position. I can't go in that. Look, at the end of the day, uh, no one's going to know it's a captain's position unless it's something earmarked like a company commander or executive officer, right? But the bottom line is, you go in that job and you just every day you come in and do the best of your abilities. That's really what it matters with that. But you got to preference, because if you don't preference, what happens is, um, kind of going into the last phase of this, but what happens is when the market's done, um, we'll go through and then we'll look at the slate, and then we'll have to look at some of those officers that that were not preference or didn't preference, and then what happens with those officers, they get imputed, and it's based on the algorithm, per their KSBs from the officer in that unit, and so that's how the algorithm matches that officer to that unit. And so we got officers out there that are being told, "Oh, all you need to do is your top 10 jobs." No, do preference everything. Okay, and it is overwhelming because there can be over 100 jobs in there, but know what you want to get after, whether it's the job or location, whatever the case is, and then set your sights on that, and then you know make those your top priorities, but preference everything, because what you don't know is, you don't know what your counterparts in the market was happening to them, right? Because again, like I said, in market, folks will fall out, right? So with that happening, that could bump you up, to one of your maybe top three positions. You just never know; it's going to fluctuate from start to finish of that market. So I know from experience too. I remember we had that conversation, but it was a humbling experience. I would just say that for me, and I did not know. I didn't know what was going to happen with me until I got my assignment notification, and I want to talk about that as well, because I get this a lot, and I was one that said this too, prior to getting to HRC. But it's just like, what is, I remember asking others that were in the market with me, like, hey, you got your RFO yet? And they're like, nah, I ain't got nothing. And then we're all like, what are those guys doing up there? How hard is this? Right. But I want to share that, um, we're not just sitting there, trying to, have fun with you guys. We have to go through this process. We have to evaluate every single position and officer and make sure that everything is aligned correctly per ATAP principles. And then once all that data is compiled, it gets processed through our TAD director, and then ultimately at the very end, the CG of HRC is the one that will make that final approval on the slate. And once that happens, we get notified, and then that is our green light to send the officers that assignment notification. So that's why it has taken some time in the past. So we try to try around December, January timeframe, but sometimes it's taking longer just because of different situations, not just from our desk, but we're talking the entire Army, not just the AMED portion for the market. Every branch out there, that's what the CG has to approve.
Oh, and that's really good insight too, because yes, I think that's what most people think because you start seeing it all over the place. People are like, hey, I got my RFO. How about you? And I think people just get a lot of built up energy that's ready to be released. But let's go back a little bit when we talked about the preferencing. Because it is very important that the officers do preference all the jobs. And the reason for that is because at the end of the day, there's an algorithm behind the scenes. And HRC has some great YouTube videos on this. That's what actually I use to make myself smart on it. And I'll make sure I link it in this episode. But essentially that algorithm, and I call it the bag of chips moment. If you're the 10th guy on the list and you only preference 10 jobs and the unit didn't preference you in that order and it goes to go to the 11th job and there isn't a job that you listed, you're like a bag of chips. You get thrown behind everybody else and you wait until everyone else gets a match in the marketplace.
Yeah, no, you're
I
spot
feel
on.
like I say that just because I feel like there's a lot of officers even up until this week that I meet who it's almost like they don't believe that to be true. They hope that there's someone who can make a phone call and help them out if they don't like where they're going. And it's very clear that, those are not a part of the business rules for HRC.
No, we are guided by the ATAP, and so when we talk about movement, uh, everything is market based. Now, everything is situation dependent, right? There may be times where officers have to move out of cycle, but when we do that, there's the approval level. It gets pretty high. We're talking directorate levels for an officer to be moved out of that cycle because they're not. It's not during the market, so it can happen, but it's nothing. Again, it's situation dependent, and it's at a high director level.
So that behind the scenes final phase that you were talking about earlier, I'm going to take us back to that. In my mind, I kind of, and maybe you're inspiring me by Cobra Kai acronym or references here, but to me, that's almost like the All Valley Karate tournament that's happening, if you will, because that's also the time frame where folks that have assignment requirements, if you will, like the Married Armies Couple program or the Exceptional Family Member program are screened. Is that where that happens?
So so we know prior to the market kicking off who are identified as MACP and EFMP. And as the market is going along, we're seeing, we can see what the officer is preferencing and kind of what that looks like. So when it comes to near the end of the market, um, we have a good idea of where the officer may go, right? Because we don't know because they're EFMP and MACP. So from there, once the market is over, that's when we can start putting in those requests through EFMP to see, hey, are there services available for this service member and their families? And we'll have those conversations with the spouses' career managers too to see, if they have availability at locations that were highlighted on their preference list. And so sometimes that is one way a person may have gotten a market match, or otherwise known as a 1-for-1. And sometimes those officers that will get broken because of the MACP or EFMP. That is really the only reasons we would ever break a market match. Because a lot of people, I think they've heard, oh, hey, if you get a market match, you're good to go. Generally, yes, but there are few instances and rare instances where those have to be broken because of MACP and EFMP.
That's really good to know, because, it also definitely embodies the Army's people first. And it's good to know that those programs that are there to assist families on either staying together or having the resources that they need is upheld in that manner. So I appreciate you sharing that insight. So overall, for officers, how do you recommend that an officer gets the best job for their career milestone as they navigate the AIM marketplace?
Yeah, I mean, so I mentioned earlier, but I think at the end of the day, understanding and knowing what you want, right? And I know I've heard it from you, and I, always took this to heart. But you define your success, right? And so what is that success for you? Is it, at the end, a battalion or brigade level type of command? Is it just achieving a certain rank, or there's a position that you're dying to have prior to your exit? And so, knowing who you are, understanding that, uh, looking at those positions or assignments or locations that will, build that roadmap for you from where you're at now to get to that end point. And then with that, again, always Cobra Kai. Just if y'all don't learn anything from this from this podcast, just learn Cobra Kai the market. Okay, and so go in first. Strike hard and no mercy. Okay, because you want to make sure you're going in and doing everything you can to get to get that position so you can stay on roadmap to get to that end goal of yours.
No, that's really great insight, and I appreciate the way that you frame it. I think it also ties back to what you were saying about you still need to preference those captain jobs for the majors, and you saying, hey, no one's going to see that you're in a captain job. I think that's really true, and you know. Folks oftentimes they get very wrapped around the job title or the rank of the job they're in, and overall, at least what I've found, my personal experience and the folks that I've had the pleasure of talking to on their own career journey, it's more about how you do in the position than the position title or the rank of the position that you're in. But at least that's been my experience. Any thoughts on that?
No, I couldn't agree with you anymore. I mean, uh, just whatever the job is. Sometimes you're gonna, get unlucky or unfortunate, and you're gonna go to assignment, and you just may absolutely really dislike that job. Uh, but at the end of the day, it's not about you, right? It's about the others around you, and soldiers, across the globe. And so you need to go in there and do the best to your abilities, and then just try to become better each and every day, um, whatever that job is. But the beauty with the market is, if you Cobra Kai it, you have a better chance of getting to a job that you much prefer rather than one that you don't.
Very good point. Well, thank you, Micah, for delving in behind the scenes of, as you described it, the black box. Hopefully, it's insightful for the officers out there that are either coming up in the marketplace or even the units that are going to be looking to find the great talent out there. So let's shift to some. I have two more questions for you. So a little bit of we're going to have a little bit of fun here. So, what is the best career advice you've ever received or personally given?
Oh, there's a lot out there. I guess I would give you a few that have kind of stuck with me. I don't know. I don't know if it's career per se, maybe more life. Dwells into the professional side as well. But I don't know why this always stuck with me. But I remember being a private, sitting at basic training, and the drill sergeant kind of pulled aside. It was the one time that we kind of saw the friendly side of the drill sergeant. We were kind of near of our time at basic training, and I just remember him saying, Uh, always remember and understand the difference between cockiness and confidence. And I tell you, it stuck with me. I wish I would have listened to it sometimes, because there's been times where I definitely kind of went more cocky than confident. But that's always stuck with me. My my dad used to always say, "You can't live a champagne lifestyle on a beer budget." Uh, that's always stuck with me too. He was a pretty frugal man, and then which I'm very blessed with, because that's transferred over to me. And then lastly, I think one piece of advice that will forever be constant is the golden rule, and I think that is so important, especially us as leaders and the positions that we hold. I think you always got to adhere to the golden rule.
Oh, sorry, I'm enjoying the advice you're giving. I didn't want you to stop. I like the cocky versus confident, and the golden rule. I'm full on board with you as well, Micah, because, treating people like you want to be treated. The Army and especially the Medical Service Corps is a very small community, and we will meet again multiple times. And it might be me calling you for help or you calling me for help or advice one day. So you never know. Um, Thank you very much for sharing that valuable insight. All right. So, next up, and our last question: what is a fun fact about you? Or if you don't have one, share with us your favorite ice cream and why.
Well, I don't know if this is a fun fact. I guess I'll kind of throw two out there. But so my first language was Korean, and once we moved back to the States, I was going to kindergarten. So I was going through ESL, and I remember kids making fun of me. So I told my mom, "Hey, don't speak to me Korean anymore," uh, which I deeply regret, now as an adult. Um, but to this day, I can't speak a lick of Korean. And I understand, all the bad words my mom yelled at me, and hello, goodbye. But outside of that, I don't know anything. It's kind of embarrassing, actually. But I guess the other fun fact I'll kind of throw out there is, so I love baseball. I love going to baseball games. Um, it's the ultimate feeling for me. So I have a goal to try to attend every single baseball stadium. So right now I am at 9 out of 30 of the stadiums. So
Wow.
I hope to one day, hit all 30. But the beauty of being stationed here is that I'm a lot closer to some of these baseball stadiums I'm trying to get to.
Wow, that's an incredible goal. And so, if you're driving to all these stadiums, my advice is you need to download Babbel, and then you can reach your first goal and make your mom proud that you learned Korean.
Mm,
Just a thought.
there
So
you go.
curious though.
There you go.
So how do you keep track of which stadiums you've been at? Is there like a little like stamp book, or do you get like one of those pressed coins at every stadium you go to, or a baseball cap? Like, how do you keep track?
Yeah, so my wife, she had found this map on Etsy, and it's a scratch off. So anytime we go to a stadium, when we get back home, we'll just scratch it off from there.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you coming on today and sharing your knowledge and your insights from being a career manager. Thank you so much, Micah, for talking to us today and opening up to the audience. And I hope you have a great weekend. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to share some wisdom out there on the market. I am trademarking Cobra Kai the market, so I better not see any T-shirts out there. But no, but seriously, hey, I just want to thank you, and for anyone out there listening, hey, we serve you guys, so please feel free to contact any one of us, and then we'll make sure to help you out in any way we can.
Thank you again, Micah. Thank you for joining us. Don't miss the next episode of the Be All You Can Be MSC podcast. Subscribe now and join our vibrant community of ambitious professionals who are taking their careers to the next level. The opinions shared on this podcast are the personal opinions of the guests and the hosts. They do not reflect the official position of the Medical Service Corps, the Department of Defense, or the U.S. government.